It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. He is Logan Paulsen. I am Craig Hoffman. And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for the second time back by popular demand, it is the one, the only, Nick Berlansky.
Nick,
going
there he
on,
is. All
guys?
clean shaved. Look at this guy.
I know. I've been staring at my unkempt face the entire time, and now here comes Nick, looking all beautiful, making me look bad. It is funny though. Nick also does fit the motif of the pod. Great head of hair.
Great.
Logan, the amount of comments we get on the amount of hair on this podcast is
It's
a lot of
I'm
comments.
slowly working my way back, guys. I'm fighting the good fight, but hopefully it can hang on for a little longer.
It's just getting a little bit more relaxed for you, Logan.
That's right. A little bit
just
looser,
sitting back
right?
A little bit.
little bit looser. That's
I
right.
do feel like the back's gotten a little longer though, so it's just
the back has
you know,
gotten longer. Yeah, it's moving this way.
Yeah, it's not actually losing hair; it's just shifting. All right, so Nick is here for another episode of Nick's Numbers, where we come up with, because we're too early on the sports books, although I'm sure you can bet them somewhere. But you are Nick is our resident bookmaker. He has come up with numbers. Some of them are based off of last year. Some of those are kind of based off of other guys in the league. I don't know the magic. I just know that this man has his numbers, and then we're gonna give over or under. We did offensive skill guys last week, so we got defensive players this week. Nick, take it from here, sir.
I want to start on the defense by talking about the guy that led the Commanders in tackles last year on defense, and that's Jamin Davis. He had 104 tackles in the 2022 season. So my question to you guys, will Jamin Davis finish with over or under 100 tackles this season?
That seems easy.
This is an
over.
easy one. I take this one. You go ahead, Craig.
Yeah, I mean, guys in the NFL, 150, 160, 180 tackles for the guys that lead the league. I have to double check. There might even be something higher than that. As long as he's healthy.
I think Foye Olakun led with 184 last year.
Yeah, so like if he's healthy, that's really what we're asking here. I know he missed some time last year. He obviously his role was a little bit different throughout the year, but once he kind of got into that Mike linebacker role, I mean, he's all over the place. If this defensive line is healthy in front of him, he should be pretty clean to the ball. That's an easy one. Like I would say, not to take your job, Nick, but like 145, 150 is a more interesting number.
I think so too.
But over 100, yeah, done.
I think over 100 for sure, just because but I will say it's important to note that schematically, this defense is kind of designed for the defensive line to make tackles. So he does have to take on a lot of blocks. So I still think, just based on how he played the last, 3 or 4 games of last season, where he's grading in like that 74 range on PFF, he's much more demonstrative to the football, much more instinctive, making some really, really nice football plays. I think if he can build on that, I think you're talking about like a guy in the top 15 of tackles maybe in the NFL. Like I think, again, he's very, very talented. He's got to stay healthy. He's got a surgery that he's nursing right now. He had a surgery last year during the bye week. So it depends on if he's healthy, but I do think the table's kind of set if he can continue to grow. And I think we also got to talk about his role in the defense. Like if he's the Mike, he'll be on the field. But if it's like, Cam Curl is your big nickel, and then Cody Barton's the guy that comes in those nickel situations, like he's not going to be on the field that much, because this team tends to lend itself to more nickel situations. So I still think 100's low, but there are some situations where he's not on the field a ton. He doesn't develop the way we think, where he's under that number. But I just think, based on the last 4 games, he's in a better spot.
Well, that was the thing, is last year he was not on the field for a lot of situations. Cole Holcomb, though, had 69 tackles in just 7 games, and he's that's the role. Ironically, Logan, you know who was 15th in the NFL in tackles last year?
I have no idea.
136? Cody Barton.
Oh, our guy. Look, here he is.
So there you go. Barton, they could easily have 200 tackle guys this year.
And it just depends on his role. It's hard to know right now because OTAs haven't, he's not been here. He's not been practicing. But I guess there is a world where he's the will linebacker and he's not on the field in nickel situations, which would be weird, I think, but it's a possibility.
Yeah. So over for both of us.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's talk about the defensive line that you mentioned. Duron Payne led all Commanders in sacks last season with 11.5. Will Payne finish this season with over or under 12 sacks? this season.
Go ahead, Logan. Go ahead and
I'm
tell
gonna
him why it's under.
I'm gonna say under, and it's just because sacks are there's so much variance in that statistic.
Mhm.
Like his pressure rate's pretty good, but his pressure rate was this last year was exactly the same as it was the year before and the year before that. So he might have been on the field for more reps, but in terms of his win percentage, it's the same. And so when I look at that number, I say to myself, that's just statistical variance. That's just him
Mhm.
getting home 3 more times than he did last year or the year before. You know what I'm saying? So I think it'll
Mhm.
come down a little bit just because it's hard to get sacks. Like we'll talk about this in a minute with Montez, but I watched all of his hits last year. He had 24 hits. He was fourth in the NFL, and it's tenths of a second difference between a sack and a incomplete pass. And so I
Mhm.
think he'll probably get 4 or 5 more of those this year. He'll probably be in that 7 to 9 range, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, it's a down year for Payne," but really everything is exactly the same for him. It's just the statistical variance of the sack statistic.
Yeah, I think it's going to be under for the same reasons Logan said, but I do think it's going to be interesting if Chase is back and healthy, right? How do because if you've got to pick your where you double team, right, between Allen, Payne, Young, Sweat, is Payne the guy you still let go? Like, do you say like, all right, he's the one-on-one guy? Is it Allen? Is it Sweat? Like, you can only double team so many guys, and so someone's going to have one-on-ones, and that was kind of what happened with Duron last year. Is a lot of times they'd pick John, they'd pick Montez, and Duron would have to win one-on-one, and then he did. And if that happened, or if that happens, then you're still probably looking at a lot of those similar number of chances, and can he convert again? And it could push that 10, 11 number again. I think the
Well,
likelihood that he hits that is small. Because again, like, yeah, it's this. I get what you're saying, Logan, in terms of it's the same as the years before, but if it's the same, then he could do the exact same thing again.
yeah,
So I would just say it's more likely based off the statistical probabilities, if you will, that it comes in a little bit less. And I think after the season that he had, some teams are going to choose to put a little bit more attention on him too. So it's going to be
the
interesting. But I think all across, they're probably going to all put up pretty decent numbers, but I don't know that anyone's going to have monster numbers.
and this is the thing I just thought about this. So assuming that the offense is better, which I think based on our last podcast we both think it will be, they'll be playing with a lead a little bit more, right? And then
That's true.
there's this great secondary that they've kind of accumulated, and we've talked about how Forbes has developed through OTAs. We've talked about how Quan has developed in OTAs, right? Um, and maybe some of those ones where the quarterback gets the ball out a little early, the quarterback's got to hold it for a beat. And so maybe there are just more opportunities for them to A, rush, and B, the quarterback's going to hold the ball more because the coverage is going to be tighter. So, you know, I think maybe I think he's going to be under still, but I think like there is a world where you have 4 guys with close to 10 sacks, and I think that would be pretty cool. And that's all if the offense can support the defense by playing with a lead, and if the secondary can support the defensive line. I think there's definitely a possibility that happens, but I still think under for this.
Yeah.
Well, there's one defensive lineman that hasn't quite reached double digits yet, and that is Montez Sweat. You guys both mentioned him in that last answer. He's finished his first 4 seasons in the NFL with 7, 9, 5, and 8 sacks, respectively. So is this finally the year? Over or under 9.5 sacks for Montez Sweat?
You
Want me
want
to
the
go
Logan?
first? Yeah, I got it. So I'm going to say over. And again, I literally spent all day yesterday watching his hurries, his hits, his pressures. And I'm like, he just like his hits. So again, I'm going to go back to the statistic. He was the 4th guy in the NFL in hits, quarterback hits. And quarterback hits aren't like, oh, I beat my guy, but I'm like 2 yards away and the ball's out. It's like I am hitting the quarterback as the ball is leaving his hand. Like if he held the ball even a beat longer, it's a sack. So I just look at that and I say to myself, like, if he has a comparable year to last year, but converts on 3 of those, 4 of those, like he'll have 12 sacks. And it just how close he was so many times over the course of the year. And we mentioned the coverage, we mentioned the offense. I just think he's going to have more rush opportunities. Who do you double team? If Chase is playing at a high level, like I just feel like the opportunities are going to be there for him.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that I will also go over. Del Rio talked about it last week. Like, finished plays make money, and
Yeah.
in the money making year, then I think Montez will figure it out. And it's not just that it's okay, it's time to make money. Last year, oh, he wasn't motivated. Like, it's year 4. We saw what happened to Duron. We saw what happened with John in year 4. Like, you just are a more experienced player. And if you have to get a 0.5% better, one, all the external factors, Chase's presence, the improved secondary, more rush opportunities, all those types of things that you mentioned. Also, just his own improvement. If he got a 0.5% better this offseason, considering how close he was last year, that could be 3 sacks.
Yeah.
So I think that over on 10 for Montez is not a safe bet, but a good bet.
Yeah, I feel good about it too. I mean, again, there's no way to know for sure, but that one feels like he's due.
Yeah.
I want to shift gears a little bit here and talk a little bit more about the secondary, because Derrick Forrest led the Commanders in interceptions last season. He had 4. I want to ask you guys, will Forrest finish with over or under 3.5 picks in 2023, with the new names also going to the secondary for the Commanders?
That's a
tough
good
one.
That's a good one.
That's a good number. I'm not betting that one.
The tackle
mean,
tackle
for
one
the-
was tough. The tackle one was tough,
Yeah.
Nick, and this one is right on. We're gonna take it, Craig.
Yeah, I'll take a stab. I'll go over. I do think there's just a general emphasis on creating turnovers and better personnel in doing it this year. And I think that, you add a guy like Emmanuel Forbes, who is not only going to intercept some balls, but is going to tip, a lot of balls. You have some of the other guys around, Cody Barton, a little bit more speed. Obviously was productive last year in Seattle. Can he get his hands on a ball that falls back to Derrick Forrest? I just think there are going to be more opportunities. You talk about, Logan, the offense being better. Perhaps they're playing with the lead a little bit more. You think of the first pick that Forrest had last year. Was the only turnover they had for what felt like 4 or 5 weeks at the beginning of last season was on Trevor Lawrence forcing a ball late at the end of the Jacksonville game in week 1. So I don't think it's much over. I think Forbes does lead the team in interceptions. I don't know if that's going to make an appearance in
Look
your
at
numbers
this guy.
somewhere, Nick. But I will take at 3.5. I will go over.
Yeah, I don't like betting turnovers, just period. Just because I think there's a lot of variance there too, and we don't really know his role right now. Like, I think
That's
there's
also
a
true.
strong push to get Percy on the field more. Does that compromise his ability to get turnovers, especially if Cam's healthy? Like, I don't know. So, I would say under, just because I think there's a lot of variance to turnovers, and I'm not sure he's going to be on the field as much as he was last year. I think he's going to play well. He's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to get 3 interceptions.
All right, there we go.
Fair enough. One of those extra names or added names that have come in this offseason is Emmanuel Forbes. Last season, the Seahawks rookie cornerback Tariq Woolen tied for the league lead in interceptions with 6. Will Emmanuel Forbes finish with over or under 5.5 picks in his rookie season?
Over.
You want to say yes so bad. You want to say yes so bad.
I did. I just did say yes. I said over. I won't say I didn't hesitate, but I hesitated slightly. But I'm gonna go for it. I just think that there is a natural skill set there that I'm not saying he's gonna be awesome in terms of he might get beat on some double moves. Like, there could be some times like he gets sunned because like an AJ Brown is a massive, massive human being, and Emmanuel Forbes is not. But there is a ball hawk ability that he has that is not just like a man-to-man. He's hard to beat. He's handsy, all that kind of stuff. But he has an understanding in zone coverage that's really high level, and he hasn't even played a game yet. You see it on the practice field. If you watch you're welcome, Commanders, for the plug, but you watch the Commanders Log YouTube show, the behind the scenes stuff with him at the combine and his interviews and all that kind of stuff. The coaches were blown away at his intelligence. And so I think that stuff matters a lot when it comes to creating turnovers. Can you be in the right place at the right time? Can you bait quarterbacks? I think he's got all of that. And I also think teams are going to try to test him. They're going to be like, it's the skinny rookie kid. Like, let's go after him. I think the opportunities will be there. I'm going to go over. I'm not going to say he's going to have like 10, but 6. I'll go for 6. That's the number I would have put in my head. So I'm going to go over.
What's the rookie record for interceptions? Do we have that floating around someplace?
Didn't Diggs do something crazy a couple years ago?
Was it 10?
Look it up.
Yeah. So while you're looking that up, I'll talk about it. Again,
it's funny, by the way. You Google it and it gives you Peyton Manning's rookie record for 28 throws.
So I'll say this. I think he's very talented. I think he's very skilled. I just think it's hard. It's hard to get that many picks. Like, you're going to get your hands on a lot of footballs, but you're going to drop a whole bunch. Like, even in OTAs so far, he hasn't had an interception yet. He's had a whole bunch of PBUs and great plays on the football, but like, it's hard. And I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe the offense is playing better. They're playing with a lead. He gets more touches on the ball. I just think that's a ton of interceptions. I don't think I've played with anybody who's had even close to that many interceptions. I think D-Hall had 5 one year, which was pretty crazy. So I'm going to say under.
Well, D-Hall once had 4 in one game, so.
He did have, it was the Bears that was on that team. Yeah. That was a crazy game.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say under. I think he's going to have a great year. I think he's going to kind of be everything you want in your first round pick. But yeah, I'm going to say under 5.
By the way, the rookie record 14.
Whoa!
Night Train Lane in 1952.
That's crazy.
Dan Sandifer had 12. Paul Krause had Dan Sandifer had 13. Paul Krause had 12. So that's those two were both Washington players. Everson Walls, the Hall of Famer, had 11 for Dallas back in the day. A lot of these are like pre-1990. Anthony Henry has the most in the 2000s. He had 10 for the Browns in 2001. Jarius Byrd had 9 for Buffalo in 2009. And then Marcus Peters had 8 in 2015 for
So there's
Kansas
a
City.
precedent
Those are kind of the modern guys. Yeah.
There's a precedent for a lot of interceptions, I guess, by rookie players. But a lot of gambling with those players you just mentioned, I will say. A lot of guys who take a lot of risk. A lot of guys give up big plays.
Famously, Night Train Lane. I know you've done a lot of film study on him.
No, I'm talking about Marcus Peters and Bird and those guys. Night Train Lane's a little outside of my my area of expertise. I don't think they even have film for him anymore. Only
I know.
Only
Guess
the
we
actual
can find
tapes.
out. Call up NFL Films. See what they got.
Yeah, see what they got, dude. There was
hey
a show I was
Jaws, you
watching
got
where
any
they had
Night
some film
Train
of
Lane
him,
film?
and like what they were able to do back then to receivers was crazy. Like, just basically tackle them at the line of scrimmage, and it was like totally fine. So,
all right, Nick, let's go. Let's go one more.
One more. All right, let's finish it off with Chase Young then, because he burst into the NFL with 7.5 sacks in his rookie season, but has only had 1.5 sacks in the 12 games he's played since then. Will Young finish with over or under 7.5 in 2023?
Logan.
I'm gonna say over. I just think he's gonna be on the field a bunch. He's going to be on the field a lot, so he's going to end up with maybe 8 or 9, I hope. I think he's going to be hopefully a more disciplined rusher. I think we're going to know very quickly whether he's improved his discipline as a pass rusher. I think he needs to learn how to rush with the group a little bit more, which is something that's going to be really interesting to watch, especially during this minicamp period, if that's kind of developed even a little bit. But yeah, I think I'm going to go over just because I think he's trying to get paid, and people who want to get paid do crazy things. And I think he's going to have a nice, big, improved year. So,
yeah, I agree with that. I think that number feels safe to go over as long as he stays healthy. He's going to be on the field a bunch and on a good defense with a lot of other good players, and he's super talented. So if he can, like Logan said, just do the things that he's supposed to do, he should get that number. If he tries to do a bunch of crazy stuff, they're going to take him off the field, especially because he's an expiring. Like, it's not like, hey, man, we're trying to develop you for the future. We're trying to win football games right now. And James Smith-Williams and Casey Tuhill do what they're supposed to do. So he's got to stay disciplined or he's not going to play. But assuming that he does that, I think he'll hit that number. I think he'll get over 7.5.
And again, that's given his recent history. That's a big assumption, but I agree. I think it's there. So,
yeah. All right, Nick. Another excellent job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, that's Nick Berlansky with Nick's numbers. Everybody, he takes himself out of the Zoom. We appreciate him and all his hard work, and which we now reward him with allowing him to come on camera and share some of it with the world, as opposed to just having us regurgitate his ideas and sounding smart ourselves. All right, so here's what we got for the rest of the week. We got 3 OTA or 3 mini camp practices. On Unclear yet when exactly we'll record the pod. We might actually, typically we have something ready for you Thursday morning, but we might just wait for that Thursday practice and then have it out Friday. So stay tuned. In the meantime, obviously, have coverage on the radio show. So check out the Hoffman Show 4 to 7 each day on the Team 980, stream live on the free Odyssey app, and of course on YouTube as well on 980's YouTube page. Between now and then, if you want to make sure that you get the freshest episode of Take Command whenever it comes out, just subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the always free Odyssey app, YouTube, etc., etc. And we'll see you then. And then we'll recap it all next week, and then have the final OTA period, and then Logan, we get to get real creative for the summertime. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. For Logan, I'm Craig. We'll see you next time on Take Command.
Thanks for watching this clip of Take Command. First, why don't you like it? It lets other people know that it was good, and then they should watch it too. And Logan, we have a new exclusive home for full episodes.
We do. 1067 The Fans YouTube page. Go check it out and please subscribe.
Yeah, do what Logan said.
Do it.
Very, very smart.